Welcome to Life Stories. What would you do if the person who left you without a word suddenly walked back into your life, asking for a second chance? Imagine the years of hurt, the silence, the unanswered questions. And then, just when you thought you were moving on, they show up, ready to face the past. Would you forgive them? Or would you walk away for good? In tonight's story, Emily thought she had it all figured out, until the man who once broke her heart stood in front of her, asking for something she wasn't sure she could give. Join us as we dive into a story of love, regret, and second chances, where the past isn't as far behind as we think. You won't want to miss what happens next. Let's begin. I was halfway through a glass of sparkling rosé when the room shifted. The clink of the wine glass in my cousin Sarah's hand cut through the soft chatter. She stood, her dress an off-the-shoulder spectacle, sparkling just like her demeanor, bright, bold, and too perfect. She raised her glass and the room quieted, waiting for her words, knowing something was coming. "Everyone," she said, smiling wide, "I just want to introduce my favorite cousin." A laugh bubbled in her throat, as if she were delivering a line from some rom-com. "This is Emily, our forever romantic, the single one who never really moved on." The words hung in the air, sharp and suffocating like an unexpected slap. The room tensed. People chuckled, some politely, others a little too loudly. It felt like an old, worn-out joke, one everyone knew was coming but never tired of. I forced a laugh, the kind you give when your family roasts you as though it's a form of entertainment. Behind Sarah, I saw Jake, her fiancé, wince just slightly. His face flickered with something between guilt and surprise. He knew she'd crossed a line. But Sarah? She was the star of the show, always needing to be the center of attention no matter the cost. I didn't say anything. I couldn't. I just smiled, the kind of smile that barely touched my eyes, the kind that told the room I was fine, I was okay, I wasn't bothered. But beneath that smile, a storm was brewing. The truth was, I hadn't been fine for years. The wedding was a dream for everyone else, an endless vista of vineyards in Napa Valley, California. Fairy lights strung across oak trees and laughter spilling into the warm evening air. Perfect. Except for me. I didn't belong here anymore. Not really. Not after everything that happened with Ethan. I had come because I was polite, because Sarah was family, and because if I hadn't shown up, I knew the gossip would have never ended. I had told myself I'd survive this. Smile, sip the wine, make small talk, and leave before the cake came. That was the plan. But now, standing in the corner of the room, all I could hear was Sarah's voice echoing in my head and the quiet whispers of the single one who never really moved on. I clinked my glass, trying to drown out the noise, but it kept coming back. Then, a subtle shift in the air. The clink of another glass. The low hum of conversation died down. I looked up. The man who had been introduced as the best man was stepping forward, Ben. I hadn't seen him in 14 years. Not in person. Not since he left without a word, without an explanation. Ben. The boy who had kissed me and then disappeared. The man who had walked away just as quickly as he had come into my life, leaving me with nothing but questions and a broken heart. My breath caught in my throat as he raised his glass. And I swear, in that moment, the room fell into a stillness that only I could feel. Everyone was watching, waiting for him to speak, but all I could do was stare at him. He hadn't changed much. His hair was shorter, darker, his jawline more defined, but his eyes? His eyes were the same. The same eyes that once held my future in them, only to turn away without a second glance. "Emily," he said, his voice calm, deliberate. It was as if the entire room had exhaled in one collective breath. My name spoken out loud, as though it were a prayer, a plea, or a confession. Every single person turned to look at me. I didn't know if I was going to be humiliated again or if something else was coming. All I knew was that the air shifted, and suddenly, I wasn't just the girl who never moved on. I was something else entirely. When I heard Ben's voice again, it wasn't what I had expected. He wasn't mocking me or making fun of me. Instead, his words were heavy with something more sincere. "I'll keep this short," he said, raising his glass, "to the ones we love, to the ones who matter most." His toast felt like it was meant for me, but he didn't say my name. Not yet. And when the clapping faded and Ben handed the mic back, his gaze found mine once more. It was quiet, intense, like he was waiting for something from me, something I wasn't sure I could give. I didn't know how to move, didn't know what to say. My mind raced, replaying the years of pain, the nights I spent wondering what had happened, the questions that had never been answered. And there he was, standing right in front of me. The man who had walked away and left me with nothing but a broken heart. I should have walked away then, should have turned and left the wedding, but instead I stayed. I stayed, frozen in the spot as he stepped closer. "Are you all right?" His voice was soft, almost hesitant. It made my heart ache all over again. "Ben?" I whispered, the word breaking as it left my lips. I hated how fragile I sounded, but I couldn't stop it. He looked at me with those same eyes, the ones that used to make me feel like I was the only one in the world. "What are you doing here?" "I'm here for the wedding," he said, his words casual, but there was something else in his eyes. "And I'm here to talk to you." He paused, his face showing a vulnerability I didn't recognize. "I've been wanting to talk to you for years, Emily." And with that simple statement, the room blurred, the noise faded, and everything I had held inside for so long threatened to spill out. He was here, standing in front of me, admitting that he hadn't forgotten, that he had been thinking about me all these years. But it was too little, too late, wasn't it? "Do you want to know why I left?" His voice was quieter now, as if he understood the weight of the question. I nodded. I didn't trust him. I didn't trust anything he said, but I needed to hear it. Ben's eyes softened. "I left because I was scared," he said, his voice cracking slightly. "I was 19, Emily. I had no idea what I was doing, and I couldn't handle the intensity of what we had. I ran because it was easier than facing the truth. But I've never stopped thinking about you. Never." What would you have done if you were Emily? Would you have given him a second chance, or would you have walked away forever? As Ben's words hung in the air, Emily stood at a crossroads, torn between the past she couldn't let go of and the future she wasn't sure she was ready to face. What would happen next? I stood there, frozen, as Ben's words washed over me like cold water. His confession, that he had been scared all along, left me speechless. Scared? Of what? Of us? My heart pounded in my chest as I searched for something to say, something to feel, but all I could hear was the deafening silence between us. I wanted to ask him everything, why he hadn't called, why he hadn't come back, why he thought I would still be waiting, but instead I just stood there, listening to the sound of my own breath. I, I don't know what you want me to say, Ben," I whispered, my voice barely audible. "You disappeared. You didn't even say goodbye." "I know," he replied softly, his voice breaking, "and I've regretted it every day since. But I couldn't do it back then. I wasn't ready for something that real." I looked away, unable to meet his eyes. My mind spun. Part of me wanted to scream at him, to tell him how he had broken me, how I had spent years waiting for an apology that never came. But another part of me, the part that still remembered the warmth of his touch, the way he used to make me laugh, the way we had once felt invincible together, wanted to believe him. "Do you think this is easy for me?" I asked, my voice sharper now. "Do you think I can just forget the years I spent wondering what happened to us? Wondering if I wasn't good enough? If I wasn't worth the fight?" Ben looked like I had slapped him, but his gaze didn't waver. "No, Emily, I don't expect you to forget. I can't erase what I did. I just want to be here now. I want to show you that I'm not the same guy I was. I'm not running anymore. I want to make it right." But the words felt hollow, like a promise I had heard too many times before. I wanted to believe him. I wanted to. But the truth was, I didn't know if I could trust him anymore. Not after everything. The music from inside the reception hall drifted through the open door, a reminder that the world was still moving forward while I stood frozen in this moment. I could hear people laughing, dancing, toasting to love, to second chances, but all I could think about was the man standing in front of me, the man who had abandoned me without a word, without a second thought. I don't know what you want from me, I said, the anger bubbling up inside me now. You think you can just waltz back into my life and fix everything with a couple of apologies? Ben took a step closer and I didn't move away. I don't expect it to be that easy. I just, I just want a chance, Emily. A chance to show you that I can be the man you deserve. A chance? After all this time? I didn't know what I was supposed to feel. I didn't know if I could forgive him, if I could ever trust him again. But there was a part of me, the part that had loved him so deeply, so completely, that still wanted him to be the man he used to be. But could I risk it? Could I really let myself fall back into this, knowing what it had cost me the first time? The tension between us hung thick in the air, heavy with everything unsaid, everything unresolved. I felt a knot tighten in my chest as I searched for something, anything, to make sense of this. But all I saw was Ben, standing there with that look in his eyes, like he was waiting for me to give him something, anything, that would prove we could have a future. I don't know if I can do this, I said, my voice faltering. I don't know if I can trust you again. Ben looked down, and I saw the flash of pain in his eyes. I understand, he whispered. I don't deserve your trust. But I'm here, Emily. I'm here for you. And if you'll let me, I'll wait for however long it takes. The words hit me like a wave. And for a moment, I felt like I couldn't breathe. Waiting. That's what I had done all those years. Waited for him to come back, to explain, to tell me that I wasn't just a chapter in his past. But the reality was different. Time had moved on. I had moved on. Or at least I thought I had. Suddenly, I didn't know what I wanted. I didn't know if I wanted the man I had lost, or if I was simply afraid of the emptiness that would come from facing the truth. Facing the fact that I had spent all these years waiting for someone who wasn't coming back. The silence stretched between us, thick and suffocating, until Ben took another step forward. I can't promise you that I'll fix everything, Emily, but I can promise you this. If you give me a chance, I won't run away again. Not this time. I closed my eyes, trying to calm the storm inside me. But I couldn't. Not yet. Not until I knew what I wanted. Ben, I whispered, I don't know if I can give you another chance. I don't know if I'm the same person I was when you left. He didn't respond immediately. He just stood there, his eyes searching mine, as though waiting for me to make the decision for both of us. Then, with a heavy sigh, I turned and walked back toward the reception hall, leaving Ben standing in the darkness, the silence between us still lingering. I couldn't look back. Not yet. Do you think Emily should give Ben another chance, or is the past too much to forgive? As she walks away, Emily is left with a choice that will change her life forever. Will she choose to trust again, or will the scars of the past hold her back? Stay tuned for the next part of the story to find out what happens next. The reception hall buzzed with laughter, the clinking of glasses, and the sound of soft jazz filling the air. But for me, the world had gone quiet. I walked back inside, the door clicking softly behind me, and felt the weight of the moment press down on me like a heavy blanket. Ben's words echoed in my mind, but I didn't know what to do with them. He was still out there waiting, hoping for something that I wasn't sure I could give him. I found my seat at the table, my eyes scanning the room. Everyone was caught up in their own little bubbles of happiness, except for me. I felt like a ghost, invisible and alone, surrounded by people who didn't understand the battle raging inside me. I had spent so many years building walls, telling myself that I was fine, that I didn't need anyone. But now, standing in the middle of all this, I realized how much I had truly been hiding from, how much I had buried inside me to keep moving forward, and how much I had lost along the way. The night had unfolded so differently than I had imagined. I had come here thinking it would be just another wedding, another event I would survive, but nothing more. Yet somehow everything had shifted. Ben's return had ripped open old wounds, but it also brought something else with it. A chance. A chance to let go of the past and finally move forward. I couldn't stop thinking about what he had said outside, how he had admitted his fear, his regret, and how he had wanted to fix things all along. The question lingered in my mind, gnawing at me. Could I forgive him? Could I trust him again? But there was more to it than that. The truth was, it wasn't just about him. It was about me, about who I had become in his absence, about how I had built my life around the idea that I didn't need anyone, that I could stand on my own. I had convinced myself that I was stronger without him, that I didn't need to revisit the past. But the past had come back, and it was impossible to ignore. I stood up, my heart pounding in my chest, and made my way toward the back door. The air outside was cool, the stars twinkling in the night sky above the vineyard. I needed space. I needed to breathe. As I stepped outside, I saw Ben standing by the railing, looking out at the vineyard, lost in thought. He didn't notice me at first, and I almost turned around. But something stopped me. I couldn't keep running. Not anymore. Ben, I called softly, and he turned to face me, his eyes locking onto mine. There was no need for words. He knew what I was going to say. I don't know what I'm doing, I confessed, my voice shaking. I don't know if I can forgive you. I don't know if I can trust you again. He took a step closer, his gaze never leaving mine. I know you don't, and I'm not asking you to. But I can't leave here tonight without telling you that I'm sorry. I'm sorry for everything. For how I left, for how I hurt you, and for how long it's taken me to realize that you were always worth fighting for. Tears welled up in my eyes, and I wiped them away angrily. I couldn't let myself break down. Not here, not now. But the truth was, I had been waiting for this moment, waiting for him to finally say the words I needed to hear. But even then, it wasn't enough. Because no words, no apology could erase the years of pain, of longing, of silence. I don't know if I'm ready, I whispered, my voice cracking. I don't know if I can open myself up to you again. He reached out slowly, as if afraid I would pull away, and took my hand in his. The warmth of his touch sent a shock through my body, and I closed my eyes for a moment, trying to steady myself. You don't have to be ready, he said softly. I'm not asking you to be. But I'm here, and I'm not going anywhere. The silence stretched between us, heavy and filled with everything that had been left unsaid for so many years. And for the first time in a long time, I realized that I didn't need to have all the answers. I didn't need to figure it out right then and there. What mattered was that I was finally facing the truth, that I was allowing myself to feel again, to let someone in, even if it meant taking a risk. I squeezed his hand. And for a moment, everything felt like it was falling into place. The past wasn't something I could change, but it wasn't something I had to carry alone anymore. I'm scared, I said, my voice barely above a whisper. Me too, he replied, his thumb brushing the back of my hand gently. But I think that's okay. We stood there, side by side, staring out at the vineyard, the sounds of the wedding fading into the background. And for the first time in years, I felt something I hadn't expected. Hope. I didn't know what the future held. I didn't know if I could ever fully forgive him, if we could ever go back to what we had. But I knew one thing for sure. I wasn't going to walk away from this. Not this time. As we turned to walk back inside, I felt the weight of the world lift off my shoulders. Just a little bit. The past was still there, lingering in the shadows, but I was no longer running from it. I was ready to face it, ready to see what the future could hold, even if it meant taking a chance on love again. How would you handle the situation if you were Emily? Would you be able to forgive someone who left you without explanation, or would you walk away for good? As Emily and Ben stepped back into the wedding, their future uncertain but full of possibilities, what will they choose? Stay tuned for the next chapter in this emotional journey.